The number one entry on this list, which was an emotional roller coaster, arguably the most emotional match out of all their matches at WrestleMania Trilogy. So in terms of the build-up, you talk about video packages. I went back and watched the video packages that they did with this with Metallica. What was the song they used for this one? It was with the Metallica thing.
Hell's Bell.
I think that was for like one of the intro, but it was what was it? Fortune, fame. What was that? In the memory remains. Yeah, the memory remains. They used for
Yeah.
Man, that was fantastic. Just a tremendous intro. I watched that video package and I forget how good that was at just really putting together everything Triple H and Taker did in their career and showcasing Hell in a Cell. And I remember we were on the phone with our boy Lennox at the time, watching this Raw, and I'm like, I'm not feeling another Taker Triple H match because I just like the idea of Undertaker defeating multiple opponents instead of facing the same people. And then they announced Hell in a Cell. I'm like, whoa, because now I instantly went from being a young adult to a little kid, because as a kid and a teenager, all I wanted to think about were, it was most of when I was a teen, I was thinking about, holy crap, get Triple H and Taker, the masters of the Hell in a Cell. And I'm like, holy crap. And then they got Shawn Michaels involved as the referee, and we were off to the races. And really, you needed the Hell in a Cell to build up to this match, and it was a great way to tie everything in. And the match, man, it had a lot of suspense. It was an emotional roller coaster ride. Shawn Michaels as a referee was fantastic. It was more or less a little bit less maybe what we were getting in their previous match of the year, WrestleMania 27, using a lot of steel chairs, using the steel chairs, using the steel steps, fantastic stuff there. And of course, I think the biggest moment that a lot of people always talked about with this match is when Triple H and Taker, they end up like pushing Shawn Michaels around to the point it's like, all right, whose side are you gonna be on? And when Shawn gets up, Taker, I believe, is about to go for the tombstone. Triple H gets behind him, pushes him into Shawn, and Shawn nails him with the sweet chin music that repels Taker back into the pedigree. And we were with our friends at the time watching live, man, Triple Zero One. I remember we was like, oh, not like this, and because like there was not a lot I'm thinking there was not a lot of near falls that I'm like, he's not gonna beat Taker. I'm like, that's not gonna do it. Pedigree there. He's gonna kick out of the choke slam there. But when that happens, like, oh snap, they wouldn't end it like this with a team move. And it's 1, 2, and Taker kicks out, and Shawn does this whole thing where he's like turning 360, and the crowd is going wild, and Jim Russell's like on commentary, like, my God, oh, that was so close. I was like, whoa, what one of the greatest near falls in just WrestleMania Undertaker streak history. Like that was a good near fall that did get me in the moment. And it was more or less from the same, just going back and forth. Triple H was bleeding a little bit from the head and everything like that. And I think at the end, it gets to the point where Shawn Michaels is begging Triple H off. He said, just finish him. You know he's not gonna quit. And Triple H is like, no, then you finish it. And Taker's like, don't stop Shawn, over and over. And eventually Taker gets a second win. He comes back with Triple H, and I think he nails him with the sledgehammer, and he eventually gets that final tombstone. 1, 2, 3, the match is over, and we get the emotional sense at the end where Shawn, he did it even though it was his best friend. He picks Taker up, and then they pick Triple H up, and we see them three walking together as warriors who have respect for the battles they've been through, and they look into the audience, and then they do that huge embrace, they hug, and it was just a tremendous moment, a tremendous way to end that story. For me, I'm glad that the story ended here, because it would have been a shame if 6 years later Taker or Triple H decided to come back and run the match back in Australia. And just imagine how much even more of a shame it would have been if after that Shawn Michaels came out of retirement and they threw Kane in there with a tag team match. Like, I'm glad that didn't happen, and that this is the de facto way that this story ends. If you see what I did there. This right here is the ending. This is the true ending of the Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels trilogy. I did not watch that last tag team match, so and I still, until this day, I have not seen it. And apparently, from everybody,
what match?
I'm not missing anything. Exactly.
What match? We
don't talk about that here. Right?
We don't know. We don't know what that is. Right. That must have been Universe Mode or something.
Could have been, yeah. But yeah, this was awesome. In terms of the emotional storytelling they told, and very much, I think for me, like Rock and Triple H, this was not. I don't think this is the best of their matches. But it was a great way to go out. The storytelling was on point. It is definitely the best emotionally driven story match. But ultimately, like I said, on my personal list, I rank this as my least favorite. And here's my thing about this match. It is advertised as a Hell in a Cell match, and I have often agreed with, shout out to my boy Aaron Riff of NoDQ.com, the Hell in a Cell was just there for decoration. They advertised a Hell in a Cell match, and they hardly utilized the Hell in a Cell. And to me, there's nothing in this match that really took place that couldn't have been done if it was just another no holds barred match and Shawn Michaels is a special guest referee. As far as I'm concerned, the Hell in a Cell, as a Hell in a Cell match, this is not it for me. As a regular match where I excuse the Hell in a Cell and I don't think about the Hell in a Cell, it's a tremendous match. Like I said, I still would put it not over the 17 and 27 matches. I think from an in-ring standpoint, those matches delivered better. This one had the story drama. I think that's why I like the 27 match better. It kind of has that emotional story drama telling that you get in the 28 match, but you get a little bit more physicality. Not that the physicality wasn't on point with this match, but you also get some of that from the 17 match. I just think the 27 match was better balanced, if that makes sense. But the 28 match still was phenomenal. And yeah, I don't want to discard what these guys did physically, because them chair shots Taker took to the back where he got bruised was absolutely brutal from Triple H. So by all means, the physicality was still on point with this one. But yeah, man, this is like you give us a ladder match and the ladder just stays put for the whole ring, and these guys go out and two guys or two gals go out there and wrestle a really competitive technical wrestling match, and then once the opponent is down, they grab the ladder and they go and climb it. Not really a good ladder match, but it was a great match in terms of the drama they had with the technical, versus like, look at recently we were there, Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, they didn't do a lot of high spots with their ladder match, but they constantly used the ladder to just brutalize each other before Cody eventually finally goes up and grabs it, and at least the ladder was utilized. It just was not a lot with the Hell in a Cell. I think they went out a little bit. They maybe threw each other into the cell, but I mean, man, example is if you look at the most recent Hell in a Cell match we got with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, that's an example of a Hell in a Cell match where they were brutal. They utilized the cell a lot in that match, and it was mostly still in the ring and inside the cell. They didn't have to do any big crazy spots off the cell, but man, yeah, I just felt like the cell was there for decoration. They didn't utilize. We've seen much bigger Triple H and Taker Hell in a Cell matches, and I'm not even including like the HBK and the Mankind. We don't have to have these big spots to have a fantastic Hell in a Cell match, but man, they hardly utilize it. We got more utilization, I think, out of the cell in the Shane McMahon match he would have a few years after this. So, man, and a lot of people said this was a great way to probably end Taker's streak if they would have gone that route. This was a great way, I think, to end the trilogy. So, yeah, the Hell in a Cell aspect of this match just didn't do it for me, and I do think that harms this match a little bit. But as far as the storytelling that we got within the Hell in a Cell in that ring, fantastic, amazing story class, really enjoyed it. But that's my perspective. I'm assuming the one and this is the reason why I got number one, because that's what most people on social media voted as number one. Man, 0001, you said this is your favorite, and social media agrees with you that this is your favorite. So let's hear your perspective on why you think this is the greatest Triple H and Taker match of the trilogy.
Okay, let's see. This right here is the greatest because, again, this right here has a sense of finality. When it comes down to it, these guys are winding their careers down. This is truly the end of an era, and and you have all three, because you have Shawn Michaels, who just ended his career a couple of years prior. Then you have, he's reffing this match. He's had WrestleMania matches against both of these guys. He's had Hell in a Cell matches against both of these guys. So, so definitely, he's a guy that definitely should be the person that's in there. That's number one. And number two, and number three, this is again a sense of finality. The Undertaker is on what CM Punk again calls Santa Claus schedule, where he comes around only once a year. And Undertaker matches are starting to become fleeting. They're becoming very few and far between. You have Triple H and The Undertaker. These are two stalwarts of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. And these are guys who are the cornerstones of those eras. These are the guys that through their bodies of work, they went ahead and they gave us stars like John Cena and like Batista and Randy Orton through their feuds. They gave us guys like Edge. They helped those guys reach that next level. And these are guys that are on the they're on the decline when it comes down to their ring career. I mean, the Undertaker, he would go on to retire in 2020, and then you had Triple H retire a couple years after that, formally retire a couple years after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you have here is this is truly the end of an era, because everything that they would do after this would be to build up the next era. But would be to build up the next stars of tomorrow. Because they had built up the stars of today during that time, what was the current time of that timeline. And when I watch, when it comes down to levels of importance, and then you have Shawn Michaels there, and then when it comes down to drama, it felt like it was high drama. It was that one part of the match where you have Shawn Michaels hit a sweet chin music and then to a Triple H pedigree, and it's like, holy smokes! At that point in time, you felt like if that couldn't end the streak, nothing will. But we'd find out 2 years later,
Right.
so the streak would end. But you have the Undertaker streak there, so and then you have Triple H trying to figure out who he is. He's kind of hanging on. He's kind of just trying to figure out everything else. Because this is Triple H more and more going into a corporate role, going into a backstage role, and this is the Undertaker more so just on a decline in his career. And and you have that. You have two guys that can go out on their own shield. No pun intended. Go out, on their own. Why not? Why not? Because what I mean. Because it shouldn't take. What I mean. Why not? So definitely. It's right here how it ranks high, because this is a high drama match, because you have them go out there and you have them put on the best matches. Despite being two guys in their 40s, you have guys, they're going out there and they show, hey, we still got it, we can still do it, and and also, but we're getting up there in age. And and Father Time loses to no man. Unless you get out when you can, Father Time is undefeated. So you definitely got to go ahead and you got to make the most of it. So this right here, much like the Rock versus Austin match at WrestleMania 19, this is this right here is the end of an era, and it's the end of an era for these two guys. As full-time competitors, because if you look into, the next upcoming years, Triple H is, as an in-ring competitor would be, his role would be greatly diminished as he would drift more and more into the backstage stuff, so definitely. So this is the end of his era, and this is also the end of the Undertaker's era as well. The Undertaker would spend his time, like, helping the next build up the next generation and the current generation. I mean, he would go on the next year and have a banger with CM Punk, and then and then he would go on and have, now right there would be like his last great WrestleMania match. So like this right here is like the penultimate last great Undertaker WrestleMania match. So definitely go check this out. If you're a fan of the Attitude era or Ruthless Aggression era or even the New Generation era, go check this out. These guys are definitely guys that put their bodies on the line for our entertainment. And these are guys that inspired us during tough times in our life, and you should go check this out. Because it's not, because it's right here. And the reason why I make this number one is this. The WrestleMania 27 match was high drama. Was high drama, but was high importance. The WrestleMania 17 match was high drama and a lot of fun. This match was high drama and high importance. It's both of those things put together. So, like, definitely, when you have something that's of high importance and high consequence, that's what puts this match as number one. And plus, you know what I mean. Plus, like, the Hell in a Cell stipulation was there, not just, even if it was just a backdrop, it's still, it represent, during a time where you had the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell, where you had a Hell in a Cell that needed a match. This right here was a match that needed a Hell in a Cell, so we could have finality. You
Yeah,
know,
at least this did matter for the match, because at the time,
yeah.
yeah, a lot
So
of those cell matches were just
yeah,
there to be
because
there because it's a pay-per-view. Good point on that one.
so this right here needed to have an air of finality to it. It needed to matter, and that's what that's why the Hell in a Cell stipulation be in there. It adds a adds a level of finality, and it adds a level of importance. So definitely go check this out if you can.
Good. Well said. I'm glad to hear. Like I said, even though I wish the cell match would have played a bigger role in the match, I did like your take of it being a nice backdrop, basically for what it meant for all three of these guys in their career and stuff like that. And yeah, like I said, it's just a shame that unfortunately this isn't where they ended it for the overall feud. Because I love me a good ending, and if the ending was good, I don't think there's no reason to go back to it. But in terms of trilogy, this was a really good ending. And now, oh boy, we move to the third trilogy. Obviously, apologies, folks, if the mood changes a little bit. It's been a lot of fun, man. Triple One reliving these great managers, but we get to the part where there is a trilogy here, and what's interesting is obviously we differ on which ones we liked when it came to Rock and Austin, Taker and Triple H. I had to get social media. We didn't have to do any social media for this post.
Wait,
We were unanimous about where to rank these.
yeah.
So
Wait a second, I got to do the Bruce Buffer voice. These matches are ranked. Let's see, are ranked by unanimous decision.
there it is. Unanimous decision indeed. All right. So